Hello guys and girls, Raj here, back with another video. So today we have a really special guest.
Me?
Yeah, Simon Rice. So you guys and girls know that I take special interest in learning from folks who did not start out in IT but made it big in cloud. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna ask Simon to introduce himself.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Raj. Thanks for having me on your channel. So, Simon Rice, my role now is Worldwide Technology Lead, which sounds super fancy, but essentially it's a solution architect role. And that's really what I've been doing for kind of the last 4 or 5 years, maybe a while before that, was kind of just helping understand what customers need and helping them build that in the cloud, which is a really fun job.
Yeah, so side note, Simon is like super humble. So Simon is like a principal solutions architect. Also, Simon won the Architect of the Year heavyweight belt in AWS. So I'll put it on the screen so that you can see. So it's a pretty impressive. But thank you, Simon, for coming and helping our viewers by answering some of the questions.
I would love to. My favorite topic to talk about is myself. You say I'm humble, but I've got a huge ego, so I'd love to talk about myself.
Okay, cool. So you talked a little bit about your roles as solutions architect. So why don't we start there? So a lot of people ask me, Raj, what do you do as a solutions architect? So if you can walk through a little bit about what is the roles and responsibilities of solutions architect.
So yeah, I would love to explain what the role of a solution architect is. There's a lot of ambiguity there, and like there's what you could do to just get through the days as a solution architect, which is table stakes, and then there's how to be really successful. So I'll share with you my thoughts on the latter. So there's stuff that's obvious, right? Most of us who get into this role get into it because we're excited to build stuff. So most of us are builders at heart. We love to work with developers, to hear that they're trying to build some fancy new thing and just to help them invent. So that's really fun. I do think, though, that as you work with bigger and bigger customers, time is your biggest constraint. And, there was a time when I was working with you originally where there were 45,000 developers within the company, and I was the only solution architect. So how do you juggle your time across 45,000 people throwing requests at you? And the only way you do that is by understanding the strategy of the company, understanding what really makes their business tick. So to me, the second big area you have to invest your time in is understanding the executives, building a relationship with the CTO, the CIO, the people who run infrastructure and DevOps, and really understanding what their strategy is, and then using that to prioritize your time so that where you're focusing and what you're building really matters to the customer. So that's my number two area. My number three is when you look at not just AWS, but any cloud platform, the beauty of it is it's all self-service. So people just get started. They just build stuff based on blog posts and whatever they find out there, and they experiment. And that's awesome. But I think as a solution architect, that means you have a duty to help those people by creating content. And as you're working on these really cool experiments and POCs and things with your customers, build blog posts and videos and share that knowledge with the world, because there's a huge community out there who are hungry to hear it. So that's kind of area number three, is be a thought leader, share the wealth.
Yeah, excellent. So Simon, we talk about this a lot. So sometimes people think that to be a SA, you only need to be really good technically, but that's not the case, because SAs need to influence large group of people even though no one is reporting to them, right? So presentation skills and soft skills are equally important as well as the technical skills.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because, we enable people to get rolling, but in order to enable them, there is a lot of education. There is a lot of influencing. They may want to do something an old-fashioned way that is really inefficient. It may cost a fortune, and it's your role as a solution architect to set them on the right path. So yeah, there is a lot of just communication and understanding human beings and being able to influence other people's opinions that, sometimes it feels like selling, but really all you're trying to do is help them do the right thing.
Right. So Simon, so both you and I did not come from IT background. I studied nothing related to computer and programming languages. Also, I started my career in mainframe, nothing related to cloud. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about how did you transition your career to cloud?
Yeah, and like you, I started in very old legacy technology. And like most people, I was just trying to get any job I could in any technology field. So I started off in quality assurance, which was literally kind of taking statistical data on a computer screen and comparing it against a stack of paper and looking at the page, looking at the
Wow.
screen. It was soul-destroyingly boring work, but it got me into writing statistical queries and coding and a little bit of that side of it. And then, like you, I got involved in mainframes in the pharmaceutical world. So I come from that old infrastructure world. But yeah, for me, I was working in a pre-sales role. I was an executive in a company who was essentially selling servers. And I was noticing just more and more people, didn't want to put servers in data centers anymore and pay for all the power and cooling and security. And, I kept hearing this buzzword about the cloud, and more I was seeing business go that way. So I kind of thought, you know what? First of all, I'm not sure management is for me. I'd been doing people management for a while, and I was kind of feeling like my team's therapist as the revolving door kept
You are a
spinning.
good therapist. I will say that. Simon was my mentor, and we went through some tough patches in multiple areas of projects. But Simon held it through. Simon calmed me down and steadied the ship.
It's always a two-way street, my friend. But yeah, so first of all, I wasn't sure if management was a thing for me. Secondly, I wanted to learn cloud. So the beauty of cloud is that most of the educational platforms are built on cloud. So if you look at platforms like A Cloud Guru, that runs on cloud serverless technology, which is super cost effective. So you can buy a training course for like $60 from A Cloud Guru to learn to be a solution architect. So that was where I started. I just signed up for A Cloud Guru. I studied hours and hours of video, and I got hands-on and experimented. And the other nice thing is, again, every cloud platform offers you some kind of free tier. So you can try stuff out, and you can spin up EC2 instances and see how auto-scaling works and write a Lambda function. And so as you're going through the training, for me, the best thing to do was pull up a console next to the training window, pause it, try something, jump back and forth. Yeah, so that was really how I started learning cloud. And I interviewed at AWS, and I think they knew and I knew that I had a bit of a learning curve. There were people who were coming in from a DevOps background who knew CI/CD and Jenkins, or who had used Azure or GCP or some other cloud platform, and I had zero experience in it. So I knew I had my work cut out for me, but honestly, that first few months of just learning the cloud was probably one of the most fun experiences of my career.
Do you think it is too late for someone who is getting out of the college or trying to switch career to switch to cloud, or we are just getting started?
I honestly think we're just getting started. And when I joined AWS, I think 4 years ago, there were maybe 70 services. Now there are hundreds.
Yeah.
And I think we're at the tip of the iceberg in terms of customers adopting the cloud. I think people are just starting to realize the benefits of the cloud, and most organizations are just not there yet. So I think we're still seeing this titanic shift of customers just migrating all of their legacy stuff to the cloud. But I think where the really interesting stuff is when you start to refactor that and actually drive value from some of the higher level cloud services. Like, how are you leveraging data and analytics? How are you leveraging AI and machine learning and IoT services? And, things that were a real pain in the butt to do yourself in the old world, that you can now just make an API call and get a result back. So to me, I guess first of all, I don't think the cloud journey is anywhere near, it's really just at the beginning. But I think from an individual career point of view, there's any time, whether you're a brand new graduate and you just want to learn this from the ground up, awesome. It's a great place to start your career. If you're someone like me who was in their 40s who decided, I want to make a change and learn the cloud, it's not enough of a heavy lift that it would prevent anyone from doing it. And you can either go broad like I did and try to just, get a bit of depth in everything, or just pick a specific area. Maybe you want to learn data and analytics. Maybe, machine learning or media services are where you want to spend your time. If you're finding the breadth of cloud too daunting, just focus on an area and start there.
That's a really good point, actually, because I get this question a lot, Simon. There are so many services, they don't know where to start at, right? So, do you have any recommendation, which area, which service they should start with?
Yeah, and I think it's similar to when you approach college, right? Do you pick something that's going to be really...
You mean like party hard
No.
and drink?
Maybe it's similar to how you should approach college. Yeah. So, do you pick something that's going to appeal to everybody, like a business studies or a science that's going to be very successful? Or do you pick something that you're really passionate about, like filmmaking, that is going to help drive you through those few years? And I think it's kind of the same when you come to cloud. Like, there are technologies, Kubernetes, every customer wants to talk about Kubernetes, security and DevSecOps and this kind of security as a service. Everybody wants to talk about that. And the same with CI/CD and DevOps. Those are areas that every customer is going to use. And at the end of the day, if you're super deep in Jenkins, you're going to understand CI/CD to a great level, and you'll be able to pick up other CI/CD tools. So it doesn't matter if you pick a specific tool or a specific technology. That's completely fine. It's still portable, and that knowledge is still applicable. But maybe you're passionate about data and analytics. Maybe you're passionate about machine learning or IoT or satellite data, whatever it is. The range is so broad now. And I would say, cover off a couple of those foundational areas, but also just pick something that's a little bit bigger and more ambitious than that, and just get your teeth into it.
Yeah, actually, I try to tell my students something similar as well, because AI ML is super hot right now. And they're like, Raj, what can I do to get into AIML? I want to do AIML. So I always tell them, are you really passionate about the AIML? Or you think AIML has a big salary, that's why you're trying to learn? Because remember, if you already have a full-time job, family, or you are going to college, you have to be passionate about it, because you have to slog a little bit. You have to have late nights, study after doing your whole day's work. So it's super important that you pick something that you are passionate about. And neither myself nor Simon went into deep AIML,
right?
But we are doing pretty okay, right? So
yeah.
If you are passionate about something, it will be easier for you to learn, and you will find a job in that field.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned AIML. So AWS has a service called Deep Racer, which is a virtual car that is powered by machine learning. And your challenge there is to come up with a machine learning algorithm that drives the car faster and better and more efficiently than other racers and win these virtual races. And at the end of the year, we have this big reInvent conference where you get physical cars. Yeah. You can upload your model and see them race around an actual track. So all of that's awesome, but to me, that was a really fun way to learn some reinforcement learning, because you don't have to worry about the trigonometry. You're more thinking about it as like the car's going down the track. How am I going to reinforce whether it goes left or right? And does it go into the corner at the apex of the corner? And you kind of think about it like a human thinks about driving. And that was really fascinating to me. Like taking something really abstract like data science and making it real in terms of something that everybody does, like driving a car. So I think there are even ways to kind of easy buttons for things like machine learning.
Nice. So, all right, Simon, the next question is a little mind-bending one.
Ooh.
If you could go back a few years when you started your journey to cloud, would you change anything?
Wow, what a great question. So for me, I started with infrastructure, and it kind of made sense, and maybe it still does, to start with things like networking and compute and storage, these kind of old-fashioned building blocks. I think what I wish I'd just jumped into a little bit earlier are things like event-driven architectures and serverless. And, to me, those are game changers. And I do a lot of work with publishers at the moment. And for example, printing a newspaper, which is something that's been done for 200 years in this country, it's super inefficient. It's something that runs for a couple of hours a day. And there's a ton of wastage in the process. But if you can just drop those items into something like an S3 bucket, that then triggers a Lambda function, really you're only using the compute that you need, which is just a fraction of what you would have previously been paying for. And you can kind of decouple these applications and have each one triggering something else. And by creating these event-driven architectures, previously you could save like 70% of your cost running these print processes by moving them to the cloud. With event-driven architectures, you can save, 99.9% of your costs, which is unbelievable. So, for somebody like a newspaper, it frees up so much money to then invest in other things. So, to me, those kind of event-driven architectures, serverless, those are the things that are just transformative to a business that, if anything, I just wish I'd learned the value of those sooner so I could start evangelizing them more.
Excellent. Wow, what a great insight, Simon. Yeah, great to know that 99% cost reduction. That's amazing. So, all right, Simon, next question. This one also I get a lot. Do I need to learn coding to get into cloud?
I would say no. I've known some solution architects be very, very successful without knowing a single development language. I do think, though, there's a lot of value in at least knowing some coding. And you don't need to be a hands-on Ruby on Rails developer or Python coder, but to be able to write things like CloudFormation templates,
Right.
or Terraform templates, which are
Script, more of a script.
exactly. If you're the kind of person who is comfortable writing like a Bash shell script in Linux or a Corn shell script on Solaris, and you're comfortable just building a line-by-line breakdown of what you want to achieve, most of those kind of languages are very kind of human readable. So if you're looking at things like JSON files for CloudFormation or YAML for Terraform, most of they don't require a ton of extra learning, but those are really powerful tools to have at your disposal. Even things like Chef recipes and Puppet and that, those Ansible scripts as well. Those are ways to just automate your cloud deployments and just get so much more value. So technically no, but I would definitely recommend just dipping your toe in that coding pool.
All right. So, Simon, next question. Hardest challenge faced in the cloud?
Wow. For me, I think the hardest challenges, and they're always the most fun ones, are things like scale. And the cloud becomes this magical thing when you're using it, especially when you come from the old data center background of, hey, it takes 12 weeks to stand up a server and install the operating system and connect it to a SAN. Like, when you go to the world where it takes 12 seconds to spin up an instance, it's incredible. But it's easy to forget that behind that there is infrastructure and there is a data center somewhere where a server is provisioning some kind of an instance for you. And I think for me, the biggest challenges are the ones that require massive amounts of scale at an unpredictable time, and you don't know how much you're going to need to scale. And again, if you were to consider a news website, how do you know when breaking news is going to happen? And how do you know how much more traffic that breaking news is going to send to your website? And that to me is really interesting, like the need to possibly scale within milliseconds exponentially, 1,000x more than your normal traffic profile. And, the cloud has answers for those, but you need to be prepared. It is still infrastructure behind it, so you need to have a plan. And that I think, is where some of the fun comes from.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we talk about this a lot when you're working together, like how the architectures change when you have to change it for scale, right?
Right.
For a small scale, you could literally do anything and it would work. But when you have to scale to millions of users, it really changes a lot. And that's where event-driven architecture comes into play, as Simon was saying, and there are other techniques as well that you should focus on. All right, Simon. So I have a couple more questions. What cloud certification would you say that the freshers or someone who's trying to get into cloud should get?
For me, and it depends which cloud platform you're interested in.
AWS, of course.
Of course. And I mean, really, every cloud platform offers something similar. To me, I always recommend starting with the Solution Architect Associate certification. There is an easier certification called Cloud Practitioner. Honestly, to me, not very challenging at all, more around just the business value of cloud. And, we used to have competitions to see how many seconds people could complete that exam in. So cloud practitioner, I didn't feel like I learned a lot. Solution architect associate did take me a few weeks to complete it. I ran through the A Cloud Guru content and I took a bunch of practice tests, but that one to me, it covers a lot of the different areas of technology. It covers compute and storage and networking and databases and the majority of things that people really want to talk about. So it kind of gives you a good foundation. But if you can get that solution architect associate exam, there are other exams, like there's a developer associate and a sysops associate, that there's a ton of overlap between them. So you should be able to nail those other two pretty quickly after the solution architect one. And if you do that cloud practitioner test in 42 seconds or whatever it is, you've then got 4 certifications behind you. That's pretty good.
That's true. That's true. So, all right, Simon, last question. How would people get better at cloud interviews? And think of like not just AWS or other cloud companies, like all the other companies that are hiring. You worked in multiple companies in your career, right? What tips would you give the viewers to get better at the interviews?
Yeah, so there are a few things I would recommend. The first one is, don't only focus on the technology. Start from the business case. So if you're going to be talking about a data and analytics solution that you built or an IoT engine that you leveraged or whatever it is, start from the business problem and work backwards from that, because that's what every interviewer is going to be trying to understand. What problem were you really trying to solve? What is this architecture the solution for? So understanding the business, even possibly understanding things like the return on investment. How much did the customer spend on the project? How long did the migration take, and what was the revenue that was saved by implementing that solution? Being able to speak to those kind of things could be a game changer for a technical interview.
Okay, and how about like practicing? Do you think the whiteboard is one of the tough interview rounds, right? Do you recommend looking up some YouTube videos from AWS and practicing them? Like, how did you prepare for those?
Yeah, so for me, one of the most valuable resources, especially with AWS, is there's something called the AWS Well-Architected Framework. And one thing I did over and over and again, and this was using a whiteboard typically, was I would draw up the solution that I was going to be talking about in my interview, and I would dissect it through the different pillars of the well-architected framework. So how is this solution highly available? How does it scale? How is it redundant? How is it cost effective? And does it perform? So I would look at it through all these different angles, and I think that gives you a really interesting prism that's not only useful in an interview, but also as you get into your career and in whatever area that you're working in the cloud, whether you're on the cloud provider side or the customer side, being able to look at an architecture through those different angles, ask the right questions around how it performs, how much it costs. And it really just helps you breeze on through some of those more challenging kind of technical interview phases.
All right, so Simon, so besides these technical cloud questions, you do have a unique YouTube channel, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about it so people know how to reach out to you?
Wow, yeah, I would love to. So our channel is called Nerd Safari. And, my wife and I used to host movie events for in-person movie theaters before COVID. So the movie theaters would pay us $50 or something to come in there, hype up the crowd, talk some trivia, and get people excited about a new movie. And of course, then COVID hit, everything closed. So we thought, why don't we try to create this type of a thing on YouTube? And we've been doing it for about a year. One thing that we found just fascinating, we kind of ran out of content from Hollywood. There wasn't a lot being made, but people keyed us into different Indian movie industries, and both Bollywood, which of course the whole world knows about, but you've got these kind of regional movie industries. You've got the sandalwood industry with the Kannada speaking people. You've got Telugu speaking movies as well. And we've been exploring not only different movie industries and movies, but also songs and customs and food, and that's just been fascinating. So if you can tolerate seeing yet more foreigners check out Indian stuff and be fascinated and amused by it, then maybe check out our channel as well.
Yeah, I will definitely give all the links in the description. Guys and girls, go check out, give Simon a subscription in his YouTube channel. And Simon, other than that, how can people reach you? Your LinkedIn, which Instagram? What do you prefer?
Yeah, LinkedIn is good. I'm always on LinkedIn. I guess my other piece of advice, though, would be don't worry too much about, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis when it comes to your career paths. Maybe actually just find a role that sounds really cool, dive in and interview for it. And the worst that can happen is they say no. Maybe it's a bad experience, but you've learned something through that experience, and then you course correct. And that's a very cloudy way of looking at the world is, fail fast, get stuck in, give something a try, and if it doesn't work, try something else.
That's right. That's right. All right, Simon, thanks again for coming to this channel and share your insight and advice for my viewers. Hopefully you guys and girls found this helpful and useful. All right, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys and girls in the next one.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me. See you next time.
Thank you.